Hi, everybody. Good morning and welcome to our final installment of Chamber Conversations for spring of 2022. Hey, Mark, how are you? I'd like to introduce Ed Hodgson, but I'll let Ed do his own bio. I know Ed, he and I served together on the board at Maine Beaches Association, which is where Ed was formerly in that role representing Funtown Splashtown USA. And has since moved on, as many of us have during the pandemic. So I'll ask each of you to introduce yourself so Ed knows who's in the room. And then I'll have Ed do his bio and we'll get right on with the program. So Mark, we'll start with you.
Me?
Yeah, now we can, yeah.
I can hear you now.
Okay. So I've been in the hospitality industry for 22 years, and then moved during the pandemic to the area, and now I'm the general manager of the Mornings in Paris in Ogunquit.
All right, and Meg, are you there, Meg? Okay. So how about you, Rick? Are you able to come in and join us? Oh, Meg's computer doesn't have a microphone. Okay. If you want to type in anything about your background, Meg, so I can relay that to Ed, I will take care of that for you. And Rick, are you there? Okay. Rick, I know Rick and I work together on the COVID task force, and I know occasionally he has problems with Wi-Fi. But Rick is the owner of Speakeasy in Perkins Cove, which is a retail store. Very good store. So,
He's a owner.
Oh, you there, Rick? I know his mic is off, but anyway, all right. So that's what we've got here. I'll keep an eye on the waiting room, and I'll turn this over to you, Ed, if you'd like to introduce yourself and then get right into your program. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Ed Hodgson. I am the creative director at Hodgson Consulting, marketing, advertising, and public relations firm based here in Maine. As Alice had said, I did get my start and cut my teeth handling marketing and sales at Funtown Splashtown USA for almost 20 years. And then during the pandemic, decided that, had some time to think and said, it's time to maybe do something different and, put my shingle out there. And now I'm working in, as my own boss now. I have a good stable of clients that range from both seasonal and year-round attractions to other consultants and retail. So trying to keep a good mix of what's going on, in the business world and not pegging myself into one particular niche. So thank you very much for joining me today. So I'll get started here. The session that we're doing today is create more engagement, maximizing your social media in 2022. So as we know, social media is just, that's it. That's how we reach people now for the most part. It is really taking over as a form of advertising and awareness in business, and keeping your name out there and top of mind is easier, but also a little bit more challenging because you are in a much more crowded field that everybody has access to. So we'll get it kicked off here. So just a little bit about social media engagement. It's more than just doing those giveaways and paid ads. It's about, you have to be able to understand your audience and engage with them in a way that will allow you to stand out. As I said, it is a very crowded marketplace in social media. We all know this. This is not news to us, but there are ways of sort of elevating your brand out there, elevating yourselves so that you do stand out from the crowd a little bit more. I know here it's you're very much in the downtown area. So there is a lot more foot traffic. There's a lot more, dare I say, boots on the ground sort of access where you get to interact with your customers more than some businesses do. So that allows you even more a keener insight into how to engage with your social media audience, which I think is key to helping with growth and helping with awareness and engagement. So just want to cover a couple of topics that we're going to be covering today. Just looking at some of the different aspects of social media engagement and how you can use that to build your business. So again, finding that target audience, being on the right platforms, what content you're posting, listening and evolving your audience. And then of course, how you do that in selling your brand and not just your products. So that's just a brief overview of what we're going to be tackling today. So we'll kick off here. All right, so finding that target audience. And again, are you reaching the right people when you're posting on social media? And if you don't, and how do you know if you're reaching the right people? You do have to have sort of a clear understanding of who you're trying to target by knowing what your target audience is. Is it, or is it, families? Is it, men, women, what age range, what demographic, sociographic? I mean, who are you looking to reach? So it's very important to have a clear understanding of that, so that when you find that audience, it helps you better craft that message to say, to make sure it's something that resonates with them, because you do want to make sure that this stays with them right after they scroll. You want them to be able to see that and say, oh, and keep that in their mind and remember what was said to them or what they saw, so that it does resonate, keeping you in their mind long after they've scrolled by your post. Hopefully they're double tapping if you're on Instagram and liking it, or giving it a thumbs up on Facebook, or whatever other platforms that you're using, but making sure that that is, something that they're taking a second and actually engaging back with you. And that's a great way to know your audience. A lot of the social media platforms, especially if you're on Facebook, which is now Meta, they give you a ton of demographic information. It's almost overwhelming the amount of data that they have. It's actually kind of scary that they know so much about us, but you can use that to leverage who your audience is to understand what messages that you should be pushing out there. One of the other things is, are you on the right platforms? I'll just give you a quick anecdote as far as going back in social media, or back in time when social media was still not as relevant as it is now, but was growing. When I was at Funtown, we were looking at social media. So we were on Facebook, we were on Twitter. We added a Pinterest page. We thought it might be cool to be on there. And then as we realized that we were what Pinterest started to become, where it was more showing craft, showing different things that weren't necessarily resonating with the rest of the audience that was on there, we decided to shut that page down. So again, just making sure you're on the right platforms. You could be on all of these platforms: Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, whatever else is going to come down the line, TikTok, Snapchat. There are so many platforms, and not each platform has its own sort of demographic that they follow. So Facebook, in it as the sort of the biggest platform out there, does tend to skew a little bit older than Instagram. Twitter also skews a little older. Snapchat, TikTok, those seem to attract teens. So it's important to know, based on who your audience is, where your audience is most likely to be on social media, so that as you're reaching the right person, because social media is not going to, you can't have a scattershot approach to it in order for it to be effective. And you want to make sure that you're, I would say, if you're going to be using social media, 2 to 3 platforms, maybe 4, depending on what your brand is, what you're trying to sell. I would suggest, if you've got anything visual, YouTube might be one of those that is sort of a secondary one, because it's different type of content that you can post than Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, where YouTube is all video. And with the social media, having those 2 or 3 platforms that you're using, you can be very consistent with that messaging, so that that you're, the audience that you're trying to reach falls into these or uses these platforms more than others. You can be consistent with that message and know that you're reaching the right people. So again, looking at when you're posting to these platforms, you want to make sure that the type of content that you're posting, you understand that that really does matter and resonate with your followers, with your customers. It's crucial that you're posting the right kind of content. You know, if you're wanting to, I represent a barbershop, so I follow a lot of area barbershops. And some of the posts that I see there just don't seem to resonate. They tend to post a funny meme or something like that. But what does that funny meme, other than, you know, you're like, oh, that's funny, I've seen that, you know, 5 other places, is that sticking with you to say, I need to book a haircut? Maybe not. So you want to make sure that whatever content that you're delivering actually is meaningful and useful to your brand. Because again, that meaningful content is going to add value to your followers, and it's going to help you with that top of mind awareness that everyone is, you know, striving for in this very crowded market space. And, you know, as we start to look at different types of businesses that are out there, you notice that people tend to follow the brands that are speaking to them personally. You know, it's not just what they're selling, it's how they're presenting who they are. So, you know, this comes down on social issues and other things like that. Like, those are things that do resonate with people. And as we know, people, you know, vote with their dollars. And if they're seeing that you follow their same value propositions, or the value proposition is something that they relate to, they're going to go and shop with you. They're going to go and use your business when they need it. So it's important to make sure that you are understanding that, and again, posting that meaningful content. The other part that I think is even more fun is using that user-generated content. You know, if you have reviews, if your customers or followers are posting on your page, if they're tagging you in their social media, those are cool things that you can then use and leverage to say, you know, this person loves what we're doing here, and you would too. You know, give us a shot. Something along those. I mean, that's very basic, very broad, but you get the idea. It's just reinforcing that if someone feels this way about your product, about your business, it's going to entice other people to maybe look at you in the same light. They're going to be like, huh, it's just like reviews on Amazon or whatnot. You know, when we go and look at things, you know, look to buy something, we're going to look at those customer reviews. Is that something that we're going to want to purchase for a product? Because there's 100 different options out there. Well, there are different options when it comes to, you know, any number of businesses in the industry, and they're going to look for these kind of reviews and what you're doing. And that user-generated content, if you leverage that and use that as some of your posts, can speak volumes for you. And it's putting it right in front of the consumer rather than them having to go and look for it. It's saying, look, we got 5 stars from this person, and here's why. Because it's giving you some relevant information. So again, using that type of content really matters. Again, reviews, different posts that they're pushing out there, any of the tagged media. So as you know, if you're on Instagram, it's very easy to tag businesses, or even Facebook. You know, you can leverage some of that stuff and reshare that out and say, you know, Meg had a great day, or Meg had a great experience at Mornings in Paris when she got her coffee the other day. You know, tagging that, then Mark can use that as, say, you know, Meg loves it here. You know, she doesn't have to name Meg personally, but, you know, just showing that content that people are, you know, excited about your brand and they want to shop, and, you know, helping to bring people into that realm. Another part of what's going to make social media engagement really important is that when you're talking, you're also listening. And we've heard this a ton of different ways, but as depicted, I tried to pronounce this and I know I was going to screw it up, but you can see the quote here. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. And that is so crucial on social media. Even though you're posting, you're talking, you're pushing your your messages out there, you want to make sure that you're listening to your audience. Are those messages resonating? Is it something that they relate to? You know, different trends and things, those are very fly by night almost. I mean, how many different trends have we seen in society that have, you know, flashed out in 5 seconds? You know, it was hot for it was good for a hot minute and then it's gone. You know, you want to make sure that you don't, you know, jump onto something maybe too late, or, you know, use something that too often. You know, trends, like I said, they're very flexible, and people will follow trends too. So, you know, just, you know, anyway, basically it's imperative just to keep up with what's going on, but also listening to what your customer, what your followers are saying. You're in a great position because being a downtown, very village-like business, you get to hear a lot of this stuff. So it's not just active listening on social media, but you know what your customers are saying to you because you interact with them on a regular basis. Using that information is also great leverage to make sure that your messaging on social media is resonating, because those people coming in, your customers that are shopping there, those are the people that you want. So just listening to them and sort of modeling what you're doing after what they're telling you, taking that feedback in and using it on social media is only going to help boost your brand and boost your business in the long run. So just make sure that you're listening much more than you're talking. And that's just to help with making sure that you're doing the right thing and you're building your brand in the right way. Again, dovetailing off that, involve your audience. You know, you can use your social media to build that sense of community that will encourage conversations. You know, whether it's about social issues, whether it's about anything that you feel that is part of your brand, making sure that you're involving your audience and having that two-way conversation. It can be, you can ask for feedback on things. You can do a poll. And again, this can also be done in person so that when you're leveraging this on social media, you're not doing it in a vacuum or wondering, gosh, is this going to work? You already have this. You're very lucky that you have this audience that you get to interact with a lot. So you get to interact with your customers on a regular basis. So you can leverage that information and really build your brand and make sure that you are staying on top of how your social media is being perceived and making sure that you're following any trends that are coming around and just keeping things the way that you need to. Sorry. Again, you're selling your brand, not necessarily your products. That is different with some people. I tend to just overarchingly want to bring this up because, you know, everyone is trying to sell their latest product, their latest service, their best product, their best service. But what stands out from the crowd and what is worthy of your customer support or attention? You know, you want to make sure that your brand speaks beyond the products that you're selling and that it does resonate, because that's what's going to keep people wanting to come back. And that's what's going to keep people thinking about you long after they've scrolled by you on social media. What is it that this brand reminds me of? What is it that this brand stands for? And this is something that has become very relevant within the last few years, just based on society and everybody being more socially aware because of social media and looking out at those things. So again, everyone's trying to sell a product and a service, but really it's the brand. It's what you are doing, who you are, what you stand for. Those are things that are going to help you stand out from the crowd, because everyone can sell a widget. But are they buying a widget because they need a widget, or are they buying it from you because of who you are? And you want them to buy it from you because who you are, because that's going to build in a customer base that is going to stick with you. And that is the type of customer that you want. You don't want someone who's just like, oh yeah, I need that. Great, moving on. You know, I'll find the next person that needs it. You want them to say, I'm going to come back because I like you. I like who you are. I like what you're doing. this is what I need to, this is who I need to support. And it does, it comes back to people voting with their dollars, and you want them to vote for you by shopping with you, by using your services. So again, it's selling your brand, not your products. You know, I am my brand. You know, anybody can do marketing, anybody can do advertising, but I like to think that people come because of my expertise. And I think that that's the sort of thing that you can leverage, whether you're selling coffee, whether you're selling retail, whether you're a hotel, you can use that because your people are your brand. Everything about you is your brand. Everything about your business is your brand. And using those assets to build your business is going to be huge, and huge in a helpful. So I know I've been kind of quick firing these because I know we've got, you know, busy days, and we've got Easter and Patriots Day coming up, and but I just want to leave you with this last piece, that nothing is final. You know, social media moves very quickly. We see this with new platforms coming up, new ways that people are engaging on the platform, different trends and things that are coming out through these platforms. So it's good to know that, you know, these, just to keep that in mind as you're moving, as you're building your business or building a plan for how you're leveraging your social media. There are new networks that are always coming out, and some experience demographic changes. I mean, we've seen that with Facebook skewing older. We've seen that with Instagram as well, starting to skew older, because that was where the teens were at one point, and now they're sort of migrating to Snapchat and TikTok, and Instagram's becoming a little bit more of an older demographic. We see these trends, so you just want to make sure that as new ones emerge, that you're always looking and seeing what is the overall trend for the social media. And your social media strategy does need to be fluid so that you can adjust it as needed, because it is going to, as we know, seasons change. We're, you know, in a seasonal area for, you know, for some of us, and just making sure that your strategy is fluid from one season to the next, 1 year to the next, is going to be very crucial for you to be successful with this. So I just want to wrap up by saying, you know, at Hodgson Consulting, if anyone has any questions, I'm available. You can reach me by phone, social media, email. You can drop me a line on my website. Be happy to stay on to answer any questions that people have. And I thank you for your time today.
Ed, I have a question.
Yes.
Being that, I mean, this is just hypothetically,
Sure.
being that we are in a resort town, you do get a mixture of people. The elephant in the room is those 10% that you just can't please.
Of course.
And opening up social engagement. I mean, I'm aware of, you know, how that works, but how do you, you know, there's some people that you just can't please, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they go on and, you know, go on to those and start, you know, fabricating, you know, their experience or anything like that, just of negativity or anything, how do you combat that?
That is an excellent question. And how you combat that is by doing the work first. In a way, I don't want you to say like it's too late, but this is why you build your brand around your experience and who you are. Because I'm sorry, I wasn't aware who the question was from. Is this from Mark?
Oh, it is. Yes.
Okay,
No,
Mark.
and this is just, and this isn't, you know, that we've had it anything here. It's
Yeah.
just, I know in the past in the hotel business, you know, there were ways that we can combat it. You know, you could go back and as a general manager or as an assistant general manager, or have somebody on the sales team that would, you know, reach out, and then if they couldn't, you know, do anything by phone, personally, they would reach out. You know, if the guest had already left, then we would, you know, if they put it on social media, then we would, you know, reply back to that. But being a small, shifting and going this direction, being a small business, I'm just wondering, because I know that last year, I was running a hotel in the area, and you couldn't please some of the people. I'm just going to be honest. There were some people that you just couldn't. You know, you could throw them $100 million, and they were just
Exactly.
bad apples.
Yeah, and I've dealt with that for years being at Funtown. I mean, if you want to talk about people not being pleased, I know that I've dealt with that firsthand.
Right.
Part of what combats that when people see that online is knowing who the business is, what the business is, and knowing that that is not typical, and they will come to your defense. They will totally come to your defense. I had an incident when I was at the park. We had a guest who was extremely vocal online about an incident that they blew way out of proportion to the point that news media got involved. And it was a non-story that ended up being a top story for a 24-hour news cycle on one channel. And I was waiting by our phone, bracing ourselves, waiting on social media, bracing ourselves for the backlash. And people came back, I would say 98% of people came back and said, this is bogus. This is totally not who they are. I get that you feel like you've had this experience, but I don't know anyone who's had this experience here. And I don't, not that they don't believe that an experience happened, but to the extent that which it's being written about is just far-fetched for even that brand. And that's where your followers are going to come back and defend you. Okay. That's the beauty of social media, is that if you do have a strong, engaged core of followers, they will defend you. They will be your supporters. They will be your champions. They will be the people who are going to rush to your defense even before you do, to say, this is not right. This does not sound right. And, even if they who knows, being that where you are, Mark, small coffee shop, I know you have probably a very strong base, of people who go to you regularly. Those are the people who are going to go and say, I was probably there that day. That did not happen. They are going to defend you.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to be, I knowing last year and what I had to deal with, I just wanted to be prepared for this year. You try to help, and some people you just can't.
And that I had to learn. Some people can't be helped. And that's when you have a good following on your brand, they're going to come to your defense.
All right. Thank you.
So, and what's a good proactive stance for, so clearly Mark would have to respond to a complaint that's on Facebook or whatever. He can't just, then you hope your champions are going to come to your support. But what's the best proactive way to de-stress that kind of a situation?
I think from my opinion, the problem that we run into, because this is how it blows out of proportion too quickly, is that we're in a environment where we want instant response. Everybody has a device in their hand, so they expect that if they reach out, on Messenger, on a post, that someone is going to see that immediately and respond back. We see that with, big corporations. They have a whole team of people who are just monitoring social media so that they can quickly respond. So they expect that from a business like in this area that doesn't have that. And just, even if you can't get to them right away, at least try and get to them before the end of the day. That was one of the things that I always did, was even if it was something I did check periodically throughout the day, but I always made sure that at the end of the day, I did one final check to make sure that anything that was unresolved before the day was out, at least got touched. As long as somebody knows that you're listening, that might be enough to diffuse a situation, just to say they noticed it. And again, that goes back to the listening more than talking principle, that you do want to listen for those things and react, even if you're like, I get it, it's, can I contact you tomorrow? Can I contact you at another time? Bringing that back to them and saying, yes, I hear you, and I'm going to engage with you. I just need a minute or two to get there. And as long as I think that you are communicative like that, that will help diffuse the situation. It won't happen in all cases, but it will help in most.
So I've got a couple of questions in the chat room. One is from Meg. She's with Hanson Properties, and Hanson Properties owns and operates Gorgeous Grant Resort and the Juniper Hill Inn. Okay, and I think you're familiar with both of those. I know.
I am.
So she says, I'm curious if Ed thinks that responding to and defending yourself against negative feedback on social media can have the effect of making the business seem petty. Is it better to not engage on social media and try to reach out directly instead?
It is better to reach out directly instead. If I got a post online, I would try and diffuse the situation in a more private area. If my other response would be if you to respond, because you do want to say that you're listening, because if you just have a negative post out there and people start seeing that and there's no response from the business, that might start to get them thinking like they're not really listening to the people who may have a legitimate or illegitimate complaint. What I would do would say, as soon as I saw it, can you send me a message, please? Either send it by email, send it by, give me a call on the phone, get that information out there and just say, I want to address this. I just, without saying, I don't want to address it in this forum, you do want to address it. You just want to be able to do it one-on-one so that there's not the peanut gallery, also chiming in, and it becomes back and forth, and you become basically a keyboard warrior, and you're fighting a battle at that point, because there is when I'm sitting at a computer and I'm talking to someone and interfacing with them, I might not be able to, they might not get the connotations or the tone of what my email is because it's text. So I want to be able to start to develop a rapport, because if I can win this person over, that might be my next champion. And that would be someone that I'd want on my side. So it is important to at least not necessarily address it with them directly in the form that they're doing it, but at least say, hey, let's bring this in, let's bring this on Messenger. Let's bring this into a phone call. How can we work this out? I've had people who would give me a 1-star review at Funtown, and I'd be like, what happened here? They would tell me the situation, we would resolve it, and next thing I know, it's a 5-star review, because they said, yes, we had a bad experience, but the manager reached out, someone on staff reached out, they made it right, and now I will always go here. I think that's just important to make sure you address it, but don't necessarily address it in the way that they want you to. Try and bring it in, be professional about it, because what they're looking for sometimes, especially with, like, as Mark said, some people just can't be pleased. Some people are also just looking for a fight. They just want to be that person and you don't want to stoop to their level. So try and be as professional as you can about that.
You're correct in that. Some people, like I said, you can offer them to fix everything, but they just looking to beat you up.
Correct. And if you can bring it offline or off that post page, you can really, it does present a level of professionalism that when you have a person like that who is trying to start a fight, they want everybody and all of your followers to be on their side. When you get them one-on-one, it's sort of, for lack of a better term, it takes that power away from them, and it allows them to be a little bit more understanding, maybe a little bit more pragmatic in the approach, that you're just trying to do the right thing here.
Can I ask you another question? How do you feel about, especially since I come from the big city, and so
you come from Portland?
No, from New York. And so I'm used to on occasion we would partnership with different people. Being in a small community where everybody has their own business and everything like this, I was thinking of us being a coffee house, but being able to market it in a different way, where we also get local businesses involved, in a sense of we highlight a local business every week, and they would get pastries and coffee for their employees or something, just something like that, to where it's like the business of the week, and we highlight them and take pictures. how do you think that engagement would go, or is it something that you would recommend? Or
I mean, you could definitely do that. I mean, I see, sometimes I see businesses doing that where, you know, they'll, say a donut shop will like donate donuts to, I would say, like a healthcare. We saw that through COVID, oh, we're bringing donuts to the nurses and the medical professionals at this doctor's office or something to that effect. I think those are good because it does show a sense of community. And it does say, we are all a big community. And it may not say, win people over, but it is something that is win people over, say, oh my gosh, I have to go to Mornings in Paris because they gave donuts to Village Food Market, or they brought coffee to Village Food Market. And I'm just trying to like pull names out of a hat, and that's the first thing that came to mind. So I apologize because but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, that's great. It also just sort of reinforces, like, that might be something that even Alice would want to pick up on, like, hey, look, they're doing something where businesses are working together, because again, about a chamber, it's bringing the businesses together so they're all working for a common goal.
Yeah, that's
And
kind
I
of
think
the big idea is, there's some businesses that are on Down Shore Road, and that don't get all of the foot traffic or per se, or there's some businesses that might have just opened, and we're just trying to figure out, since we're all in this together, what is a way. And so I was coming up, maybe we do, visit just during the summer, and maybe once a month during off season, or one time, but have a weekly during the summer. Have you stopped by and seen this, da 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 da, and
and that's huge, because if you've got people who the business, because obviously you're going to pick that, you're not just going to blindly say, oh, we're
Right.
going to go here. If it's a business that sort of you think would resonate with who your customers are, then absolutely, I think that's great, because again, it's building that community and that sense of community that's also just driving business back downtown.
Exactly.
That's huge.
You could still get more followers in that sense, because you had two companies or two businesses, posting this out with each other. That's
correct. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. As long, just, having that sort of complementary thing where you can tag both, you're basically getting two audiences for one post. I think that's great. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So we've got another question in the chat room from Rick, and it says, nice to meet you, Ed. Sorry for our lack of sound and camera. Our shop is Kiki's. It's in the Cove on Facebook. Our shop is a ladies' boutique and gift shop. We're a very small business and are spread thin. Would you suggest we hire someone specific for our social media, or squeeze in what we can?
I'm all for saying that you could bring someone in to help with social media, at least maybe to get you going. Part of it is you need to, if you are right in your business, basically 24/7, 365, sometimes it's good to have somebody who can pull you out to see the forest from the trees, because you're you have certain things that are going to take a priority, and sometimes social media does not. What this allows you to do, if you bring someone in, is that they can time it so that your social media makes sense for the timing, that you're posting to the right people, that you're looking at it. So there is some, it depends for every business, you definitely need to budget for something like that. But I would always suggest that you have to, if you can't hire someone, you need to be able to carve out some time to dedicate to it. So that would be the way to do it. Squeezing it in is great, but you've got to say, okay, I'm going to make sure that I do a post every Tuesday, or periodically throughout the day. I just need to see what's being said. There might be nothing that's being said or being posted, but it's good just to check and make sure. So, it definitely depends. If it's something, we can definitely speak offline, Rick, in person, and, just sort of go over it and see if it is something that would make sense for you, or if it's something where, no, it's just about, taking that little bit of time to work it into your day, but work it into your schedule so it's part of your routine.
Okay, so that's everything in the chat room. I don't know if Meg, Carrie, if you had anything else. Oh, another
Oh,
question.
I see. Yep, I see his question. So is there a time during the day which would be better time to post? The answer is it depends. I use there will be people are on social media 24/7. So, but they're on social media at different, not everyone's on 24/7, but it's there 24/7. It's not like television or radio where you hit it during a certain time. There anecdotally are better times to post. And you will see that you'll see that there will be, I'm sorry, something was just keying in my ear, so I apologize. There are algorithms that will say that, oh, you should post at this time, you should post at that time. I typically don't follow those because I know that my audience is going to see it throughout the time that when they get on social media, they're going to be able to see what I've posted. Apologize for the thing. Siri decided that she wanted to have a conversation with me. So.
Okay, so Meg, Carrie, did you have anything else? Anybody else have anything else you want to follow up with, or?
Any suggestions about frequency of posting? I personally follow businesses that post too often and some that I never hear from. Yes, I would say you want to post on a fairly frequent basis. I would say, depending on your business, maybe once or twice a week, but it has to be relevant. It can't just be, we're here, we're open. You want to show something. So if you are and Meg, if I'm not mistaken, you're a hotel manager. So maybe you want to post, different things that people can do around the area as well as amenities, but you want to sort of post it not frequently enough that people start to turn it off, because you're right. There are people who post far too often. There are people who barely post at all. You just want to have a regular frequency that you look at. I tend to, if I have a seasonal business, I do work with a seasonal business that is an attraction, amusement park, and in season I post 3, sometimes 4 times a week, just because there's usually something new going on. We have a limited window in which we're trying to, generate income. If your business is open longer, I would say you could stretch that out, like I said, once or twice a week. You just do want to keep some sort of regular schedule on posting for yourself, so that because again, people are, as much as they're on social media, there are going to be other things that are going to pop up, and you want to make sure that you're reminding them that you're there, reminding them what you're doing, because they might see someone else that's doing the same thing. And being bombarded as we are with messages from advertisers all the time, you want to make sure that you're standing out from the clutter a little bit, or at least as much as you can.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to add? Question? Right, and if you want to throw your screen up there one more time that had your contact information on it.
Sure. Yeah, let me pull that back up there. There I am. I didn't want you to see too much of me. So,
so there you go. Ed is a relatively new Ogunquit Chamber member. I know he's working with some of our smaller businesses, and kind of the way we reeled Ed in is we had 2 businesses join in just the last few months that we could tell just really needed some help with social media. So we've put them together. That's what we like to do as a chamber, is give businesses a chance to work together. So Ed, we really appreciate your time. And Meg says this has been very much appreciated, Ed.
yes, so, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time today. If you have any other questions, my contact information is there. I'd love to hear from you. And maybe I will see you all around town this summer.
Right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ed.
Thank you. Take
Mark,
care.
Rick, Meg, thanks for joining us today. All right, everybody, have a good day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.